Abolitionism or abolitionists, the movement, was the movement to end slavery in Western Europe and the Americas. Abolitionism was a historic movement that sought to end the Atlantic slave trade and liberate the people that were enslaved. In the year 1991, my name involuntarily changed from Citizen Christopher Johnson to Inmate 621366. When I tell people I picked everything from A to Z in the Texas penitentiary, everything but cotton, and I picked it for free, while corporations got paid for my labor, I lived in nothing else than legalized slavery. They laugh. Slavery ended, they say. Crime ain't supposed to pay. They say slavery has been over for ages. Leave the past in the past. My great-grandmother passed away in 1990 at the age of 99. When I was a child, my great-grandmother used to gather all the children on Gospel Sunday afternoons after she had us sing those old-timey gospel tunes. And she would tell us stories of her past, starting off every story every Sunday the same way, stating, I was a slave, my mother was a slave, my mother's mother was a slave. That was gospel. The 13th Amendment, which supposedly ended slavery, was passed by the Senate on April 8, 1864, by the House on January 31st, 1865, and ratified by the states December 6th that same year, some 25 years before the birth of my great-grandmother. Bet you catch a bad one, and double dog dare you to tell my great-grandmother or anyone in my family that my Mamie was a lie. All my life, one way or the other, my relationship with my country has been me living on a slave ship where my black body equates to currency. The 13th Amendment states neither slave nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment for crime, whether of the party shall be duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Listen. Because you wasn't paying attention to the language, we fingered in on that popular tree parchment paper. We just made you strange fruit criminal, nigga. Well, guess what, nigga? Let me give you some of these 1860 vagrancy laws. Check it. I'd be well schooled you on the red record. Well, we don't have to lynch you, just pinch you, because you're going to take that. Who's going to take the word of a darky next to the virtuous statue of a white woman? Hell, we'll just switch up the whole justice system and dog whistle call it a tale of two Americas, where unfair sentencing practices where you get the grand prize of surviving more time because of your blackness. In fact, let me run this by you one more again in case you didn't catch it the first time. America didn't do away with slavery. America made being born with brown and black skin a crime. Slavery, i.e. the state of being a slave. The state and the conditions of being a slave. Someone forbidden to quit their service for the enslaver, treated by the enslaver as their property. I was a slave. My mother was a slave. My mother's mother was a slave. I picked everything from A to Z, everything but cotton in the Texas penitentiary. I lived in nothing less than legalized slavery. America, a country where 83% of the prosecutors are white, less than 14% of our population identifies as black, yet 38% of prison population is taken from the 14% of her black citizens. You do the math. When I ask, who do you think their target audience is? Robert Pearl Council, otherwise known as Kemetic. You might not have heard of him. Organizer of the Free Alabama movement, one of the largest prison protests in history, describes his 3 years in solitary confinement, stating, on this concrete rock, you talk back, they put you in the box. If you buck up, they put you in the box. If you fuck up, they put you in the box. Anything you did during slavery that can get you put in a box. No toothbrush, no clothes. They give their dogs better living conditions than humans. Same old, still a slave. Same old shit every day. Nearly everyone, from the inmates to the Department of Justice that houses them, are broken, but not the system. It works exactly how it was intended. America's slavery is big business. And I don't understand how we treat U.S. citizens worse than we treat war criminals under the Geneva Convention. As a teacher in the Massachusetts Department of Youth Services, I met a young man, the eldest of 7 brothers and sisters, living in a 3-bedroom apartment in Brockton, Massachusetts. His only crime? Being born to a mother who couldn't afford her children. So a youth prison was the alternative to social services. If we're speaking about domestic abuse, I have to question, how is it okay for a state government to groom children for legal slavery. I would have to question if we took the incentives of profitization of the human body out of the equation, what then would be the justification for putting children in prison? Hell, I'd have to ask if we took privatization and free labor out the penal system, would America, who makes up 4% of the world's population, housing 20% of the world's prisons, would America have an incentive to continue with legalized slavery? I had another young man ask me, Mister, if you wasn't getting paid to teach us, what business would you have behind these bars? I responded, young man, I wish this business didn't exist. I mean, when it comes to America and business, there is no real difference between you, me, and my great-grandmother, where we were all victimized by the 13th Amendment. I picked everything from A to Z, everything but cotton in the Texas penitentiary. I lived nothing less than legalized slavery. I was a slave. My great-grandmother was a slave. My great-great-grandmother was a slave. Abolitionism, or the abolitionist movement, is the movement to end slavery in Western Europe and the Americas. Abolitionism is his historic movement to end mass incarceration and liberate enslaved people.
Man, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Brother Christopher Johnson, poet laureate and author of Invoice for Emotional Labor, which you can find on Amazon. We wanted to open up with a poem to ground us, to center us in this space for abolition. And today I want to welcome each and every one of you viewing this today to the Abolish Slavery National Network National Quarterly Gathering. The Abolish Slavery National Network was officially founded on August 28th, 2020. Which, by the way, I'm sorry to not introduce myself. I'm Kamau Allen, lead organizer with the Abolish Slavery National Network. And this network began as an idea. It began as an idea long before each of us knew who we were. Some of us lived in Colorado to California, South Carolina, New Jersey, Nebraska, Utah, all these other places, all around the nation. And we found that this language, the very language that Brother Christopher Johnson was talking about, the language that allows for slavery to exist as punishment for a crime, existed in each of our own state constitutions. In 2018, I had the pleasure and the honor of leading the campaign to abolish slavery from Colorado's constitution under the leadership of Together Colorado. Since then, I have been reached out to and touched by many of the women and men that you will see speaking today. The mission of Abolish Slavery National Network was to bring in these wide-ranging campaigns together for a single purpose: to abolish the loophole for slavery and involuntary servitude, and to address the practices and conditions of slavery in the United States of America. So with that, what you're about to see is a story of abolition that is unfolding through the work, the perseverance, the courage of people who are organizers, activists, impacted people, family members of impacted people, clergy people, legislators, and others all across this nation, from state campaigns to our federal campaign. But you'll hear more about that soon. Next, I would like to introduce Sarah Chase, our communications director with the Abolish Slavery National Network. Sarah, the floor is yours.
Hi, abolitionists. For those who I have not had the honor of working with yet, my name is Sarah Chase, and I'm the communications director for the Abolish Slavery National Network. We try to hold these events regularly throughout the year because it's easy to get lost in, the work that we're doing, to get discouraged by the setbacks. But it's important to reground and acknowledge that what we're fighting for will change the fabric of this country. it's important to recognize that the work of the leaders at the state and federal campaigns is groundbreaking. And today we will hear from people on the ground who have succeeded in getting slavery abolition on the ballot in their state. We'll hear about next steps for the abolition amendment. We will hear about the work that still needs to be done to educate people about this issue and the way that state campaigns get off the ground. This is a moment for celebration of our successes and an opportunity to learn from one another. This year is going to be huge in this fight. There's momentum building, and it's because of you. We will change public sentiment, and we will make legislators understand that every single person in this country deserves autonomy and freedom from ownership. The work we are doing here will bring this country closer to its stated values of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for everyone. So thank you for being so passionate about freedom for everyone and true justice for all. I will pass it over now to our partner, Eve Hurwitz at March On.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and everybody for having us. I am Eve Hurwitz. I am the organizational chaplain for March On and the director of finance for March On and March On Foundation. We are the fiscal sponsors for ASNN. And I want to talk about 2022 and why it's so important. So the midterm elections. Midterm elections are a time where we can really focus on issues and ballot initiatives. We are very passionate about ballot access and voter registrations. And I've talked to people over and over again who don't know about the 13th. They don't know about end the exception. They don't realize that slavery is still legalized in our country. And as soon as we give them the information, they want to get involved. They want to vote. Some of them aren't even registered to vote. This is the year that we can focus on the issues, on abolishing slavery, because we don't have the spotlight of the presidential election. This is a very local and state year. So we are going to be pushing out all kinds of campaigns, information about ballot access, information about ballot initiatives, what that means, and how we can end the exception. I am just very honored to be here, and March On is very honored to be working with Abolish Slavery National Network and all of you. And thank you so much for all of your work. If you need any more information, feel free to go to wearemarchon.org, and all that about us is there. And I'm extremely honored to introduce Ernestine Tina Wyatt, the great, great, great grandniece of Harriet Tubman. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Ernestine Tina Martin Wyatt, and I am a 3 times great-grandniece of Harriet Ross Tubman. This is the year of 2022 that we celebrate her bicentennial birth and all of her life's achievements. I would like to commend the Abolition Slavery National Network on your tireless efforts of standing guard, making sure that the language of the 13th Amendment's exception clause is countered in all of the states to remove this language with a new amendment. During the Civil War, Aunt Harriet wanted President Lincoln to understand, in order to win the war, you have to kill the snake of slavery. We are now in 2022, but it feels more like 1862. We are still in a state of dealing with slavery, but now slavery under a new name. And this type and any other has to be killed. And the only way to do this is to continue the fight to encourage each state to rid this nation the right to enslave African Americans with new legislation. In a quote from Aunt Harriet, she said, "I had reasoned this out in my mind. There was one of 2 things I had a right to do: liberty or death. If I could not have one, I would have the other. For no man should take me alive. I should fight for my liberty as long as my strength lasted." I am encouraging you, Abolition Slavery National Network foot soldiers, to continue to fight as she did until she died for our right to be free.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jimmy Lamb. I am a member of the National Network. I am also co-chair of the California Abolition ACA3 here in California. I'm going to introduce to you all some of the organizers across the country that are involved on this campaign. And so the next up is going to be Jenna Alexander, and then we have Randy Brooker and Mark Hughes.
Hello, good afternoon from Tennessee. It's an honor to be on here. And as has been noted several times already, this is very much a war that we are all involved in, and we are very much soldiers in this war. I can tell you in Tennessee, we have been fighting this war for the past 5 years. And now we've finally made it to the point where we have a ballot initiative up this coming November. We're very excited about this, and we're preparing for it. We're doing a lot of different things. We're working on content and developing social media communications. We are building a network across the state, basically for a ground war, a state organizing campaign to educate people, because so many people don't know. They don't know what's in the state constitutions or the federal constitution, and they don't understand that enslavement of people in our state is very much alive and well. We have learned recently that a ballot initiative has never failed in the state of Tennessee. Now, some of you might be saying, don't say that out loud, right? But it's never failed. And I just want to say, every state is different. And the way things are changing in my state, in Tennessee, rapidly, it is going from a red state to certainly a fascist state, quite frankly. And I think we got this legislation through just in time to make it to the ballot. So we are hopeful, and we are targeting primarily urban areas, but not just urban areas with our organizing and education campaign. We're thrilled to be here, and we are honored to be part of this network. And so I know we are short on time, and if anyone is interested in another Southern state in reaching out to us, to talk to us about our strategy. Again, no state will be the same. We are happy to share every bit of information that we have with you. So let's keep moving. Let's keep going. We got a long way to go.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Hughes. I am the Executive Director of Vermont Racial Justice Alliance, where we are running the campaign Abolish Slavery. Vermont, our partners here are Vermont Interfaith Action. The national partners are the folks up at the Faith in Action. We're also holding hands with the Abolish Slavery National Network in the work that we're doing as a nation. So proud to be, excited to be a part of the conversation this afternoon. Definitely wanted to just give a shout out to all of the folks that are doing the work at the statewide level. I'm not even going to start naming names because I know that I'm going to miss one, but I just want to just give a shout out to all of the folks, definitely from state ops and national, that we see and work with on a regular basis. Here in Vermont, what we're doing is we are moving to the ballot. We've come out of the legislative cycle, which was 4 years. So we started this work in 2019, and only somewhere around the 16th of this month did the policy move over to the Secretary of State's office, where it will be prepared to go on the ballot in November. So we'll be doing some get out the vote stuff. You will probably see some things scrolling across your screen on how you can get in contact with us. We'll be writing letters to the editor, opinion pieces, local publications, drafting flyers, doing door-to-door stuff, get out the vote, registering new voters. We've got a lot of work in 16,000 members of 70 congregations across the state of Vermont. Vermont is a state of roughly about 628,000 people. Yeah, that's right, about the size of Baltimore. So the work is underway. The work is ongoing. The work is intense. We'll continue to do that work. We see it happening from two perspectives. One is upstream, and how do we help remove the clause in the 13th Amendment, or in the 13th Amendment, by replacing it with the 28th Amendment. Then, of course, the downstream work here is the work that we know the legacy of slavery connects to this thing that we call systemic racism. We know that there's a lot of work to do here at the local level, but increasingly we're finding more and more that we're not really going to accomplish anything until we move forward and finally, once and for all, eradicate systemic racism. It would surprise you to know that the exception clause, the clauses that exist in the Vermont Constitution, they are the predecessors to all other exception clauses. And that's why it's so important for us to do the work here. So I want to just throw it over to Riley over in Oregon, who's also continuing to work there. Thank you for your support. And we look forward to doing the work, partnering more with the work on a national level. Have a great afternoon. Riley?
Hello, and thank you very much. My name is Riley Burton. I'm the co-founder of Oregonians Against Slavery and Involuntary Servitude. We're a grassroots organization of young organizers that are guided by incarcerated and formerly incarcerated individuals who are looking to amend Article 1, Section 34 of the Oregon State Constitution to fully outlaw slavery in the state of Oregon. Together, we passed through the Oregon State Legislature at the end of 2021, and now we're looking for we're preparing for a ballot campaign in November of 2022. And I'm just here to say that slavery is antithetical to the principle of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We stand for abolition, as it is impossible for anyone in this country to be free from tyranny while its roots still underwrite the foundation of our society. And there's no greater injustice than dehumanizing individuals to the point of property. Together, as organizers, we are looking to educate Oregonians on the realities of state-sponsored slavery. Further, we are organizing to remove disinformation in a way that can create a structural foundation for incarcerated people and impacted people to lead this movement. We're looking for a resounding rejection of slavery, because we want to make a new foundation for our society to take the next steps in righting these wrongs. And so right now, as a campaign, we're building out our educational materials, and we are asking today that anyone with the will for change and the financial ability help donate to these campaigns, both in ours and in Tennessee's and in Vermont, to make sure that we can get that resounding rejection that we're all looking for. And to underwrite the importance of this bill, we have some words from Oregon State Representative Maxine Dexter, who was a sponsor of this bill through the legislature and integral to getting this passed and onto the ballot.
I'm Dr. Maxine Dexter, State Representative for House District 33, and I championed Referendum 402 in the legislature before it was referred to the ballot. This measure means a lot to me because as a state, we have created perverse incentives that perpetuate our dependence on prison labor and mass incarceration. Oregonians deserve to have a say on whether to correct the wrongs of the past, deciding whether to keep this language enshrined in our Constitution. Until we can remove this ugly vestige of racism and oppression from the founding document of this state, we will not make progress toward racial equity or toward recognizing the humanity of all Oregonians. Beyond the basic moral reasons that this change is urgent and important, it meets a broader historical moment on the national level. In recent elections, 4 other states have struck the language of slavery from their constitutions. Oregon could be the 5th to do so. and it is in our hands to ensure that our state is on the right side of history, leading the charge. Furthermore, U.S. Senator Merkley is leading the federal movement to abolish slavery. It is critical Oregon's actions align with Senator Merkley's important leadership on a national level. Abolishing slavery is important for so many reasons, and this campaign is going to be among the lasting legacies of our lifetime. We all should be offering our strength and our support to this movement. Please join me.
Thank you very much. And I would now like to introduce Sam Brown, co-author of ACA 3 in California, and he'll be reading his poem, The Phoenix.
Peace, everybody. My name is Samuel Nathaniel Brown, and this is called Same Thing. United States, Russia, Ukraine, superpowers still chill tripping, it's the same thing. Working hard every day to get as much as you possibly can. Self-preservation still number one, it's the same thing. Black people fighting for their freedom just like they was way back in the day. Max Parthas, Fred G. Douglass, Jamelia Land, Harriet Tubman. Black people still fighting today. It's the same thing. So why is it so difficult for you to understand that involuntary servitude and slavery, it's the same thing? From the time when the tree was a place where a body could legally swing, to these days when a courtroom is a place where a body could legally hang, still a lynching, it's the same thing. Unarmed Black person shot by cops, same thing. Killed under the guise of a minor traffic stop, same thing. Predatory lending and economic injustice, same thing. Underfunded schools, same thing. Double standards with the rules, same thing. The Black codes were created to remove you from your life, from your humanity, and place you on a prison labor plantation and then extract as much hard labor out your ass as they possibly can. Today's Black codes are 3 strikes, life without the possibility of parole, felony murder rule, and the various enhancements that accomplish the same thing and the same game. So why is it so bleeping hard for you to comprehend that involuntary servitude and slavery, oh, they're the same thing. Though I'm a hardworking person with a great heart whose mom divined him the name Sam Brown, these days when I wake up in the morning, I roll over and my feet touch the ground, my name is Prisoner Infinity. Because once they transported me through their due process P49627 model dehumanizing alchemizer, I became nothing more than a prison laborer where I could be worked to infinity. Specifically, death row, we can't open the door, even though I'm a prison owner and I would love to work them some more. Level 4, oh, we gonna work a bit more. Level 3, he gonna work like he free. For level 2, you already know what I'm gonna do. And level 1, I won't work him till his time come, but I will work him till his sentence is done. Because I'm worth more on a plantation than I'm worth off of the plantation. Today I'm worth more and less. I'm worth less on parole than I am when facing with incarceration. It's the same thing. The people that fought back in the day, life, death, and legacy, to truly hear freedom reign, Abolish Slavery National Network, ASAP, Senator Sidney Kamlaga, California Abolition Act Coalition, Young Women's Freedom Center, Edify, Love You Don't See, Sierra Foster, March On. We still out here fighting. It's the same thing. The people that stood to the side back then when atrocities of slavery and Jim Crow were taking place but didn't say or lift a finger to do a thing, those are the people who stand by today and don't speak out against involuntary servitude and mass incarceration. It's the same thing. Don't be that person. We need you today just as we needed you back then. So get involved. My name is Samuel Nathaniel Brown. That was my poem, Same Thing. And up next, we would like to announce all of the states that are in process for reaching the ballot in 2022. Thank you. Peace.
Good afternoon again, everyone. I'm sorry if you're hearing an echo on my end. My name is Jamelia Land. I am the co-founder of the Anti-Violence Safety and Accountability Project, along with my husband Samuel Brown, whom you just heard. Samuel is the original author of the proposal that has become ACA 3, the California Abolition Act here in California, and he wrote it while serving 24 years inside of one of the largest cultural states in the country. We are seeking to remove Article 1, Section 6 from the California State Constitution, which still makes slavery legalized. We have successfully passed through the Public Safety Committee with a unanimous vote. We are currently on track to go through our next phase next week, and we are seeking to be on the ballot for November of 2022. Up next, I would like to announce Gina McKinney, pardon me.
Our biggest technology problem being muted, right? Hi, everyone. I'm Gina Kenny. I am the president of EPIC, Ensuring Parole for Incarcerated Citizens. I myself, along with this great coalition we have here today, is fighting to end the exception clause here in Ohio's Constitution. We are partnered with Senator Cecil Thomas. He has Senate Joint Resolution 1 on the table right now, sitting in Senate Judiciary Committee. This is his second go around within the last few General Assemblies. We've been stalled, unfortunately. They gave us an opportunity at him introducing our legislation and then gave those who were the proponents opportunity. However, they have yet to schedule an opposition hearing, which, let's be honest, both sides should have their time to speak. And unfortunately, us not getting this opponent hearing is what's stalling us here in Ohio to finally end the exception clause in our 13th Amendment. We have a video from Senator Cecil Thomas that he had sent us. Unfortunately, he was not able to be here with us today, but he did want to send his words and encouragement to all of those, not just here in Ohio fighting, but those across the states. If anyone here in Ohio would like to join forces with us and get involved with the movement, please reach out to us. epicxteam20@gmail.com is our email address. www.epicxteam.org is our website. Any other information you need, feel free to reach out to me. Here's a quick word from Cecil. And then after Cecil Thomas, we have Mr. Dennis Febo fighting very hard in New Jersey to end their exception clause.
Hi, I'm State Senator Cecil Thomas from Ohio's 9th Senate District. Last year, I introduced Senate Joint Resolution 1, which will remove an exception to slavery and involuntary servitude in our state constitution. No one in the state of Ohio should be labeled a slave, even if they have been convicted of a crime. The Ohio Constitution is a document that forms the basis of our moral values as a state and is a guide for taking those values and turning them into laws. Simply put, I do not believe that slavery or involuntary servitude is something any of us value as Ohioans, and it is why I believe the exception should be removed. SJR 1 is currently in Judiciary Committee. We have had 2 hearings so far. The first was my opportunity to explain to the committee why we should pass the resolution. The second was for proponents to submit their testimony. I've been working with the chair to get additional hearings and to bring it to the floor of the Senate. Discussions can be tough and slow going, but we're going to keep working on this until we get it done. I also want to thank all of you for your work around the country in trying to make it a better place for all of us.
Again, those were words from our senator here in Ohio, Senator Cecil Thomas. Thankful for him. He's definitely trying to make sure that Ohio are trailblazers in ending the exception clause. Shout out to the Starts Within organization for this amazing shirt that we had to get from them, because it has a 13th Amendment as it is now. They're also an organization here in Ohio, also bringing much awareness to the exception clause. As we all know, it's immoral. There shall be no slavery, no exceptions, period. We shall abolish slavery once and for all, and for all. Coming up next, Dennis Bebo from New Jersey.
We have been working with for the past 3 years with two bills, ACR 145 and SCR 96, which both would add anti-slavery language to the New Jersey Constitution. Just like half of the states in the Union did not inscribe the 13th Amendment language, those of us that don't have it have to push to add anti-slavery language. For New Jersey would state slavery and involuntary servitude are illegal in the state of New Jersey, period. Our bill did die as of December. However, both the Senate and Assembly persons, Ms. Assemblywoman McKnight and Senator Rice, are both agreed to relaunch this year. So we have a way stronger coalition, a whole lot more powerful organizations at the table who are all willing to make sure that we can permanently and finally end slavery in the state of New Jersey, especially since we were the last ones in the Union. With that said, if you wanted to reach out and learn more about what we're doing, you could come on Amend the 13th New Jersey on Facebook, and pretty soon we'll have our site up again, amend13thnewjersey.com. Have a great day, family. Blessings. Hello? Can y'all hear me? Y'all text and let me know, can y'all hear me? Because I can't hear it, but all right, good. All right, this is Pastor Kenneth Sharp in Glasgow. I'm here in Alabama, fighting the good fight down here in the South. We got the House Bill resolution with Representative Hart and the senator helping us out, and it's in Florida. It will be on the ballot, thank God. Yeah, so we moving in the right direction. I just want to give a real big shout out to Max Parthis and all of y'all, Bianca and everybody that's doing this, because I don't know, other people, it may be a job to them or may just be advocacy or calling or something like that. But for those of us that are formerly incarcerated and suffer from this slave language, and especially now being attacked as I am, this is our lives. And so to have this many people on here all across the country doing the same thing, trying to take away the slave language, it knows, and I'm trying to highlight it as much as I go, but it gives all of us inspiration. It gives us the excitement to know that we're not alone, that other people are fighting for us, and that other people see our plight and still being slaves to America. I practiced voting rights and stopping voting rights all across the country, got them voting out of jails and prisons all across the country, and in prison in Alabama and in Mississippi now. But people don't know, once they take your voting rights, then you are considered 3/5 human and don't have full citizenship. And what the abolition is doing by taking away the slave language is giving us our citizenship back. So we not only are we looked at as citizens, but maybe now we could be looked at as human beings as well. Thank you, Abolition Movement. And I'm so glad to be a part of y'all. Y'all help me and I help y'all. Let's do this.
Hi, thank you. My name is Savannah Eldridge. I am the founder of Be Frank for Justice and co-director of state operations for the Abolish Slavery National Network. I'm also the co-lead of the campaign to abolish slavery here in the state of Texas. The work of the Abolish Slavery National Network continues to grow as our neighbors are realizing that the abhorrent system of enslaving our brothers and sisters in the carceral system cannot exist in the land of the free. And as we forge into 2022 and beyond, we're unified with states that you've heard here this afternoon who are calling for their fellow citizens to boldly proclaim that slavery under any circumstances is wrong, and to do so via ballot measures. We'd also like to recognize organizing efforts that are happening across the country, from Minnesota to Georgia and as far south as Louisiana and Texas, where supporters have introduced legislation and dared their elected officials to relinquish their economic stronghold of incarcerated men and women. From Nevada, Massachusetts, Kansas, Connecticut, and Maine, yes, they're all organizing to do the same thing. In total, 28 states, 1 district, and 1 territory have committed to ending slavery without exceptions. For a full list of states and their current status, please visit www.abolishslavery.us. At this time, I'd like to introduce Federal Campaign Lead and Worth Rise's Executive Director, Bianca Tylick.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bianca Tylick. Thank you, Savannah. As said, I'm the Executive Director of Worth Rises and the Federal Campaign Lead for the Abolish Slavery National Network. I have the honor of leading the federal campaign alongside other colleagues from Latino Justice, Just Leadership, and the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. We are so excited to be here, both to be running the federal campaign, which I'll provide some updates about, but also to be supporting the states across the country that are fighting to abolish slavery in their state constitutions. Our 2 fights, the federal campaign and the state campaigns, reinforce each other in a tremendous way. We need the work of the state organizers on the ground to build the movement that we know is necessary in order to not just abolish slavery in language, but also to abolish it in practice. So we're excited this year, midterm election year, which we agree, is not the necessary prime time for federal movement, to be supporting these state campaigns, specifically Oregon, Tennessee, and Vermont, that are going to the ballot this year, and hopefully behind Alabama, Florida, California, and Ohio that might be joining them. We also want to say that the state campaigns are so important because of the opportunity to create enforcement actions. We want to highlight that in Colorado, where Kamau led the fight to abolish slavery back in 2018, that there is a very important case right now that is invoking that new amendment, new language of the Colorado Constitution to truly end involuntary servitude and forced labor. And that's a case we'll all be watching. So at the federal level, we're really excited to just report that in 2021, we were able to introduce the resolutions in both the Senate and the House, specifically Senate Joint Resolution 21 and House Joint Resolution 53, carried by Senator Merkley and Congresswoman Nikema Williams, to actually abolish the exception clause in the 13th Amendment. This new amendment, as we call the Abolition Amendment, simply reads, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude may be imposed as punishment for a crime. 2021, we were also able to get the Judiciary Committee chairs in both the House and Senate to support and co-sponsor the legislation. Advocates around the country sent over 30,000 emails to legislators in support of the Abolition Amendment and other legislation at the state level. We had hundreds of cookouts hosted to support public education around the Abolition Amendment, and still more. In 2022, our goals are to first and foremost really raise the profile and awareness of the exception clause in the 13th Amendment. Despite the incredible work of all of the advocates on this call, as well as movies like The 13th, a recent poll revealed that as many as 88% of Americans do not know that this exception clause exists. And so for the federal campaign and all of the work that everyone's doing on the ground, it is absolutely incredible that we really, really hone and prioritize our public education work. Second goal is to get strong bipartisan support for the Abolition Amendment. Thirdly, to get a hearing. And lastly, to start building that base, that movement that extends far beyond the walls of this call. In order to get involved in the federal campaign, we invite you to visit www.endtheexception.com, write to your legislators, but also write to us. And again, thank you so much to everybody for their incredible work Now with some closing words from Kenneth Morris, descendant of Frederick Douglass.
I'm the great-great-great-grandson of abolitionists. I'm the great-great-great-grandson of abolitionist Frederick Douglass and the great-great-grandson of educator Booker T. Washington. I'm co-founder and president of Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives. We're an abolitionist and anti-racist organization with a mission to build strong children and to end systems of exploitation and oppression. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you in person. I want to thank Jamelia Land for inviting me to deliver virtual remarks to you today. In David Blight's Pulitzer Prize-winning Frederick Douglass biography, Prophet of Freedom, he describes the conditions in Washington, D.C. during the Civil War. In January 1863, thousands of enslaved people were emancipated in the South and fled to Washington in search of a better life for themselves and their children. The city was a muddy tent town where government buildings had been converted into makeshift hospitals to accommodate sick and dying Union soldiers. Douglas, facing this human calamity, became convinced that such suffering and bloodshed could only be mitigated if Black people were given full and complete citizenship rights, and most importantly, the right to vote. During the Civil War, Douglas met with Abraham Lincoln over equal wages for Black soldiers, 200,000 of whom fought in the war but were paid less than white soldiers. And notably, he lobbied Lincoln to grant Black men the right to vote. Without the right to vote, my ancestor correctly prophesied that Black people would be subjected to discrimination, especially in the South, where the casualties of war and destruction would be top of mind of those who would seek vengeance and retribution on formerly enslaved people. The failure of Reconstruction and the enactment of Jim Crow laws throughout the South proved my great ancestor to be prophetic. Despite the eventual ratification of the 15th Amendment to the Constitution, which established the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. It would take another 95 years before the promise of the 15th Amendment would become a reality through the Civil Rights Act of 1965. Today, our voting rights are once again under assault. Efforts to suppress voting rights for millions of people are escalating across the country. People ask me all the time, what would Frederick Douglass do or say if he were here today? Well, it's not hard to imagine that he would be outraged to see that the right won by sacrifice and bloodshed has not yet been exercised to its fullest all these years later. He would be disappointed that we are still fighting many of the same battles he fought. Shortly after his 2020 election, Georgia Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock said, quote, "We are witnessing right now a massive and unabashed assault on voting rights, unlike anything we've ever seen since the Jim Crow era. This is Jim Crow in new clothes," end quote. I believe my ancestor would also be outraged at the apathy and indifference among too many Americans who take the right to vote for granted. When too many of us refuse to vote, we shouldn't be surprised at the pathetic state of many of our elected officials. Frederick Douglass used his voice, his pen, and his vote to effect change. We need to use our voice, our keyboard, and our vote to do the same. We need to hold our leaders accountable at the local, state, and federal levels and demand that they take action and identify and eliminate voter suppression laws and unjust policies that perpetuate systemic racism. Would there be a Frederick Douglass among us who could remind us of the obligation we owe to those who came before us and our duty as citizens in a democracy? On this 58th anniversary of Dr. King's March on Washington, I want to congratulate Abolish Slavery National Network on your one-year anniversary. This is an important milestone you've reached, and it should serve as a reminder that we all need to continue to do our part to fight against voter suppression and end legalized slavery in California and across the country. I wish you the best for a successful event, and God bless you all.
Thank you. That was powerful, along with the whole program today. And I'm here now to say that if we want to do something about all of this, we can. My name's Nathan Woodliff Stanley, and I supported Kamau in the 2018 campaign that abolished slavery in the Colorado Constitution. Now I'm supporting ASNN's abolition campaigns across the country, and you can too, right now, wherever you are, in these three ways. First, to help our federal campaign, text "in the exception" to 52886 to tell Congress to pass the abolition amendment. That's "in the exception," all together with no spaces, to 52886. Thousands of people have sent this text already, and Congress needs to keep hearing from us that the 13th Amendment exception allowing slavery as a punishment for crime needs to end. Second, if you're in a state with a state abolition campaign, contact your state's campaign to see how you can donate, volunteer, or help in other ways. I believe the contact information on that should be on the screen, and you can contact us if you want to know more about how to find state campaigns around the country. And if there isn't a campaign in your state, maybe you can help start one. Third, make a donation to the Abolish Slavery National Network so we can help all of these campaigns to abolish slavery and involuntary servitude in all circumstances. Go to the ASNN website at abolishslavery.us, and you'll see options for giving to this movement. That's abolishslavery.us. And besides the donation links, you'll find other information about ASNN and slavery abolition campaigns. It's time for all of us, no matter who we are, to be abolitionists. So thank you for being one too.
To be continued. No truer words have ever been spoken, unbroken, unending, unfinished, unto all of the generations of nations, like inequity, poverty, slavery, war, hate, and starvation, misery, oppression, repression, and greed. To be continued without a doubt or question. Indeed, more like a promise wrapped in a prayer, undone with more to come for everyone, everywhere, every time, every place, for every race on the face of this earth. To be continued. Issue forth with the force of a generational curse. There's more profits to make, more tribute to take, more of our innocent, ignorant lives are at stake. More mistakes and mishaps, repeats and recaps. Our history shows we react and reflect ad infinitum. More decisions will be made based on the skin I'm in. To be continued in a perpetual virtual pursuit, like the prodigal problems of a bad seed's fruit, like the interest rates we get from all the ancient debts, to date unpaid and yet still way past due, like the loan of this poem, transit to be continued by you.
My revolution is an evolution. That's why I don't talk about it, I be about it. Counting the bodies, the bounty of moments like blacks housed in county penal facilities. My body's the facility of something godly, facilitating random acts of godliness, like in God we trust, but God is missed. Just 3 squiggly lines on a dollar bill, like if we fill our pockets with objects of legal tender, we get more heaven. I get more heaven every day I awake, to be continued in my prayers, like I want to continue talking to God. My revolution is an evolution. To see that ain't too hard. To be continued. To be continued. To be continued.
To be continued. Like the children of the 4 walking around, bellies full to the brim with malnourishment. Like our ancestors and their ancestors before, like our brethren now, still enslaved by power, money, and greed, doing all manners of atrocities and misdeeds. To be continued. Like the single mother working 80 hours a week just to keep the water on and maintain the heat, to keep the light bill paid and food on the table, to occasionally gift her kids with a rare treat whenever she finds herself financially able. To be continued. Like the 8-year-old drug dealer on the corner, or the teenage girl on the street, like the abandoned and misused children and all the secrets that they keep, like the women abused by their spouses and the fathers who walked out on their sons, marred by the scars of yesterdays and the past they can't outrun. To be continued. To be continued like the genetic memories of our ancestors caught in the eternal web of affliction. To be continued like a crackhead's next fix or the latest drug-induced addiction. To be continued like the chains that I have rattling in my darkest of dreams. Like the fabric of my soul that's torn apart at the seams. Like the tears of a mother who wakes up to having 1 child less. Like the prayers that go unanswered. I'm just this short of being blessed. To be continued. To be continued long after I'm dead and gone, when the last seed has been planted and there's no more songs to be sung. To be continued, like the verses of this poem. To be continued.